And I now introduce Lea Frank from the Vienna Institute for Archaeological Science, who's going to present her analysis in the Mediterranean.
Yes, hello, my name is Lea Frank, and I'm today gonna present the master thesis I successfully defended in 2022, and which was on the archaeological network analysis of the decoration of the BeakerPottery in the Mediterranean. So my master thesis was written within the framework of the Seascapes project with Maria Ivanova-Beek and Lucy Kremp, who is also the co-director. I have focused on the Western and Central Mediterranean with a special interest in the islands, the Mediterranean islands such as Sardinia, Sicily, and the Balearics. And the aim of the thesis was to explore the interconnectivity and the connections and possible networks during the Beaker period of between 2700 and 1700 BCE, and to compare the results and contrast the network models with the actual and current state of archaeogenetic research. In doing so, I followed the method of archaeological and statistical analysis, archaeological network analysis, which I've programmed in R for this reason. The proxies were 2,282 decorated Beaker pottery shards and vessels from 98 sites. And this revealed 98 diverse motifs and elements. And the impact of the thesis was insofar that it was a different methodological approach to examine Beaker connectivity in this geographical area and time, and has not been done before for this period. Here you can see the 98 sites, 41 mainland sites indicated by the blue dots, and 57 island sites indicated by the yellow dots. So Eve has already introduced quite a bit about the Beaker complex and its research state. So I'm just going to briefly touch upon the linkage between paleogenetics and the Beaker material culture and the so-called step-related ancestry. This was also another focus on my thesis, to just compare and contrast the results. And so the so-called step-related ancestry in Beaker individuals is associated with the Beaker assemblage and the movement of people from the Eurasian steppe towards Iberia, and then from Iberia over the Mediterranean with a second wave, so to speak. However, it is quite difficult in speaking about and linking the paleogenetic research with the actual archaeological record. And as you can see in the graph, Sardinia, for example, is lacking that so-called step-related ancestry, and is going to be very interesting for speaking about my results with the network models. I came up with two research questions. Can an archaeological network analysis reveal the spread of material culture ideas, which is the decorated Beaker pottery, and the movement of people during the Beaker period in the Mediterranean? And is there a correlation between the movement of people with step-related ancestry on the islands and the decorated Beaker pottery? I've gathered well-published data from books and publications, and put the metadata in an Excel database, and then and collected the 98 Beaker motifs and elements after Michael Kuhn's concept, and which you can see on the right-hand side. An element and motif is the first two components which make up a pottery decoration. I then managed the data in R and Excel as well, but mainly in R, and did a program coded a network analysis. And in the end, interpreted and discussed the network models with the current archaeogenetic research state. Here you can see some elements and a selection of the 98 motifs. I've brought it with me to just show an example. To dive deeper into the heart of the network analysis, I think I have to mention that the network is consisting of nodes, edges, and weight. And the nodes in this case were 98 sites, and the edge, which is a link or connection from one site to another, and that is the pottery decoration. A weight is made up of the absolute quantity of same motifs appearing at one site, and this then can be used to calculate the betweener centrality, and that is going to be interesting for the discussion of how central a site was in the distribution in the networks. However, which I indicated in red here, the intensity of the connection is the Shakar coefficient, and that's the similarity between two sites. And that was revealed with the presence and absence of elements and motifs at one site, and statistical calculation, basically, which was used to show the intensity. The time window, I have focused on 1,000 years, and I split this up into 5 different time windows to make it a bit more dynamic and to just see a development and retrace basically different steps of the network. Here you can see the material culture. I have collected just a few examples on the left from the Balearics, in the middle from Sardinia, and on the right-hand side, some examples from Sicily. And now speaking about the actual results, this is the network model. It's the 1,000-year network model I'm presenting here, so it's a static network model. And I've increased in the next two slides, increased the intensity and the Shakar similarity, which means that the connections between Northern Africa, as you can see, and Sardinia, as well as Sicily and mainland Italy, is getting more intense and better visible. So the next slide is showing the 5 different time windows. I have tried to make it a bit more dynamic, basically, and showing time windows with 200 years each. And that, as you can see, resulted in a peak at 2100 and 1900 BCE, where there are the most connections and the most intense connections during that period. So to sum up my results and also my research question, it was possible to visualize interconnectivity in this area, and it could be shown that there was a high intensity between 2300 and 1900 BCE, and also a shift in betweener centrality from Sicily to Sardinia. And the best model comparison was at the 30% and 50% Shakar similarity. To sum up, Sardinia and Sicily had the most intensive connections in the mainland, Majorca the least in comparison. However, Majorca had more connections to Iberia, for example, than the other islands. And I have to mention here as well that this only mirrors the current state of research and also my selection of the motifs. And so there is a need, and I think also a relevance for archaeological network analysis, because it can give a relevant insight into connections and interconnectivity, as well as the intensity. In speaking about the archaeological network analysis and the paleogenetic studies, there were some correlations between the movement of people with this step-related ancestry. However, there was a lack, as I already showed, in Sardinia, but there were other genetic affinities which could result in the conclusion that the ideas were transferred not only through step-related ancestry individuals, but also through other means of transport, of trade, exchange, and other people with different genetic affinity. However, I think more data is needed to compare, for more comparisons. And I just wanted to mention that the archaeological network analysis is a multifunctional tool, and it can serve as a basis to do more analysis on the context, exchange, and interconnectivity of material culture and people. And it does not depend on any prehistorical period or the material. It can be used for other research questions or adapted and developed for different research needs. And speaking about prospective well beaker research, I think that, for example, the distribution of small finds or the different centrality measures could be expanded on, and this can be something which can be done in the future. And this is where I'm at the end of my talk. Thank you very much to my supervisor for their great help and advice, and also to the organizers of the Baubeaker workshop, Elfte Renn and Karina Grömer. Thank you very much for inviting me. And yes, thank you all for the attention.